Welcome everyone to a special episode on live chat with Arrow Education. My name is Joash, and here with me is Dr. Bosedi Edwards, who we are here to talk with you today about what are the things that we should learn about studying abroad. What should we expect, and what are some of the questions that everybody has been wanting to ask about studying abroad. But before we begin, let us introduce what we do as Arrow Educations. Arrow's Education is an education consultancy and agency that that covers about 30 over countries around the globe, and we are working with over 2,500 higher education institutes, offering thousands of courses in all the fields from K-12 to PhD. And we offer the most affordable support services to help you realize your dream of studying abroad and be trained professionally in the things that you aspire to be. And how does it work with us? You may visit our website on arrowstransactions.com, complete an application form and upload all necessary documents with us, contact us on WhatsApp, and then pay all the necessary fees and apply and receive your admission offer, as simple as that. And we will guide you through your entire process. If you have questions about what it takes for you to get out there and studying abroad, we will tell you and get you ready with all the documentations you need to study there, including your visa, including all the travel documents that you need as well. So if you would love to realize this dream today, please contact us. Do not hesitate to reach out to us so that we can start you on this step. And so with this, let us begin today's live chat with Arrow's Education. And it's such a privilege to come back here today and have this conversation with Dr. Bosedi, right? Like, what does it feel like, or what are the things that you have experienced studying abroad? And to be honest, I myself have not have the opportunity to study abroad, right? I was born and raised here in Malaysia, and my entire education life has been with the government education system, and had the privilege to enter a public university in Malaysia, which means almost everything is paid for for our education. So what's it like, give us a little bit of a glimpse of what's it like studying abroad for you, Dr. Bosedi.
Okay. Good evening, viewers, wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon. So take whichever one applies to you. Thank you very much, Josh, for this special session. So starting with how it feels like to be an international student. Yeah, I think I'll say it's a very good experience. It's a scary experience also, but I think it's something that works well for anyone. If you have the opportunity, you should definitely take it. Leaving the comfort of your home country, leaving your family behind, and going into another country where you don't even have any idea what could go wrong. All right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite challenging, but then when you take the courage, it's actually the beginning of the rest of your life. That's the way I can put it. It's the beginning of the rest of your life because everything changes. The way you see life changes. The experience you have is totally different. I always, I think on some of our other platforms, I do tell every one of our potential clients that one of the things that happens to you that will never happen or is not likely to happen if you stay at home is your network,
Mm.
the kind of people you know and the places where you know them just by doing one thing. So, like I said, when I was studying as an international student, I found myself in a university where we had about students from about 75
Mm.
different countries. And I think I could conveniently say today, maybe I have at least one friend from each of those countries.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that you experience. And then apart from that, you also have this opportunity of seeing life from other people's perspective. I think there is nothing that gives you cultural and emotional intelligence like that. Uh, I mean, coming from home, coming from, I would say, from a Christian home to an Islam dominated nation, where I met other people who practice other religions, that the ones that I've never even heard anything about. And it's a lot to take in, but it's also a lot of learning opportunities to see that people see things differently. People, when you are still at home, there is always the feeling of whatever you know as the way to do things is the correct way.
Mm.
But
Yeah,
when
that's
you
true.
go, yeah, when you go out and then you see that people are doing things differently, it makes you feel like, hey, so maybe this is also correct. So it actually opens your mind, it widens your heart, gives you an opportunity to become. I think I'll say you become a different person.
Yeah, yeah.
Honestly.
I totally agree with you on how, this opportunity would really
Yeah.
change your life, it alters your life. Even for me, I think in general, going into university, going into higher education, I think it's also a great turning point for a lot of us because that's when we are finally um, like feel like a step away from your parents and where you're now able to get into a social circle or a place like that is away from home, and you now have the freedom to make decisions in your life that has a lasting effect.
Yeah.
It's really exciting at the same time, very scary at the same time,
Yeah.
but it's also such a defining moment for so many of us.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember leaving home because I'm from Kuala Lumpur and now residing in Penang and got my education in Penang. Even just within Malaysia itself, um, these two cities just feels very very different. The culture, the food as well, the way people speak was also very different. Like I speak Malay, but the Malay in the northern side of Malaysia it's
It's
slightly different
different.
from the
Yeah.
southern side. So I learned a lot about that in the cultural context, and I can imagine that when you're going abroad, that difference is going to be so much bigger,
It's a lot.
and it
A lot of it.
challenges you. It challenges you to change your way of thinking. It opens up your mind,
Yeah.
and it does help you to see the world a bit bigger than instead of just within your own cocoon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
There was something very funny that happened when I came in newly to Malaysia. I
Mm.
remember then I couldn't eat anything for s- for a very long time. Everything I tried to taste is like, what is this? I still remember one particular day, a friend promised that, oh, don't worry, I know a place where we can find fish. I'll take you there. You at least today you can eat fish. It's been a few months, but I've been so stressed at that time because nothing was working in terms of food. Even the bread was not the same. So we went to this restaurant inside the university, and then we got there, and I paid, and then the fish came. My God, it was fillet. I was like, seriously? You told me I'm going to eat fish. This is no fish. I was sad. I should use that word. I was really sad. But today,
Mm.
Oh, I think I'll eat anything. Yeah, I'm comfortable with everything around now compared with then. So it's a lot of change. It's a lot of change, but it's a good experience.
Yeah, yeah, it's an understandable reaction and experience as well for anyone who to go across, to who work across the to so that crosses the nation border and going into a completely different experience and cultural background as well. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. And um, I think as you were preparing for your studying coming here in Malaysia, um, I think this is a question for a lot of people who want to study abroad, right? Like, how much time do I need to get myself ready to study abroad in a overseas program? How much preparation do I need to do? How much time should I give myself to do that kind of preparation?
Okay. Thank you for that. So I will say there are no hard and fast rules actually about that. One of the most important things to know is which country you are going, because resumption schedule varies by country.
Mm-hmm.
There are some, and it also varies by institution. Some institution run maybe 3 semesters, some run 2 semesters, some taking international students only once in a year. So depending on which of them applies to you, you need to that will help you to prepare. And then as an international student, you also need to know that there will be time needed for admission processing, there will be time needed for visa processing, and then there could also be time actually needed for say how do I put that, in between all of that you could have cases where they say, oh, bring this other document, or we need additional documentation and all that at any of these stages. So that's another thing. I think one other thing that should be important for international students is the funding part. Do you have the money ready? Because at the end of the day, the whole thing is about money. If you have the cash ready, you can go at any time the offer comes in. But if the cash is not ready and the offer comes, which happens to many people, the offer comes, there's no money, then you have to wait until money is ready. So let's assume that funding is not the problem. I would say planning with for all of these things, and then putting in personal issues into it is also an important thing to consider. For example, if you're married, you need to consider what's going to happen to your spouse. If you have kids, what will happen to your kids? If you have other dependents, aged parents, what will happen to them? If you are on a job, do you need to resign from your job or apply for study leave with pay or without pay? These are all things that you need to factor into the planning. So I would say, in terms of time, if I'm going to be specific, I will say if you have put all of these things into consideration, say for your admission processing, sometimes you may need up to 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
For visa processing, maybe I'll say minimum of another 3 months. So give yourself at least 6 months.
Yeah,
So
that's
between
a good rule of thumb, right?
should be good enough to prepare.
Okay. So which means if my intake is somewhere in September, I should be looking to start my preparation no later than March, for example.
Yes, exactly. It's
Okay. Yeah. I think that answers a lot of question. Like, which means more than that 6 months, you also have to start researching about the universities that you want to get into,
exactly.
right? Because if you do not know when the intake of the university is, then it becomes a bit more like you don't know when to start actually planning.
Exactly. But I
Yeah.
think that's one other area where arrows comes true for its clients, because even though you don't know, you may not know which university you want to go into, and maybe you might have a university that you really fancy. Maybe you are not qualified, because some of
Oh,
these
yeah.
universities have requirements that are high,
Mm.
especially if they are very good universities. The requirements are high. So maybe on average, they expect you to have an 80. And then when they compute your result, you are like a 70 or 75, which means you are not qualified to go there. So what Taurus does for you is, instead of, doing all this try and error thing, your entire documentation is fed into the system with the course that you are interested in, and then the system generates all the universities that you are qualified for. So then you can make a choice.
Wow. So that's really helpful, right? Because
Very,
all this research, if I'm doing by myself, would have taken me several weeks of trying to find out all the information, right?
it's
And
going to actually take you several months and years, maybe.
wow, yeah, because for example, if I want to study mechanical engineering, um, uh, as much as I want to enter the top university in the world, I should expect that there is a huge chance that I may not make it, right? And I need to keep my
Exactly.
options open,
Exactly.
and and that means I have to research a few more universities altogether, and sometimes
Yep.
those information doesn't come by easy. I
Not at
remember just trying to figure out what USM is offering. I have to make so many phone calls, check their website. Sometimes websites are not the most resourceful place to get all
And
this
you're
information.
making local calls. So imagine if you want to try to make international calls, that's already unaffordable.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't think of that. Yes, that would be a huge
Yeah,
cost
it's a huge.
to think about as well. So it's amazing that Arrows is able to help in this way to help us aggregate all this information and have all this in front of us, so that it helps us saves a lot of this time, and time is money,
Yes.
and time is money, and we should and this would help us to be a bit more competitive for sure. Yeah, uh, appreciate that. Yeah, with so many of our clients coming to us, and we have served so many education institute over 30 over countries, right? Um, in your experience, what are the best countries to study in? What are the best country that everybody wants to get into, right? Right. I
I
want to
think
say Malaysia, but apparently that's not the case.
I think it's actually a function of several factors. It depends on the goals. It depends on the funds available. I mentioned earlier that at the end of the day, everything boils down to cash.
Mm,
So, as much as you may want to go to this country or that country, the issue is it affordable? Is your
mhm,
sponsor able to take on the cost? I think that's the most important part. So the best country depends also on your goals. What are your goals? For example, some people are leaving home, they want to go study abroad and they want to go back home to
mm,
continue. Maybe it's just a professional development, or they just want a higher degree so that they can qualify for the next promotion. So for such people, they'll just study and go back home. For some people, they want to actually be out there in the world. They want to explore the world. They want to stay back after graduation and work abroad, maybe get international experience, maybe go home much later, or maybe not even go back home until retirement or something. So it depends on your post-graduation plans. So
mm,
all of these factors come into play in deciding which is the best country to study. Another thing is that as students, some countries allow you to work and earn both an income and a work experience. Some don't, like Malaysia. Malaysia doesn't allow. So Malaysia doesn't allow you to work and gain experience. But maybe if you go to a country like the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, they all allow you to work. Then you can also gain experience while you are at it, and you are gaining a certificate at the end of the day. So if that's your goal, then you will need to consider that in making a choice. Some countries also allow you to stay back after graduation. They have what we know as post-graduation work permit. This is a visa that allows you to stay for a certain amount of time to find a job and then work, and then you can go back home later, or you could stay back if you find a job that allows you to stay back. So then that's another factor. If that's your goal, then you have to consider that in choosing a country. Some countries also offer very affordable tuition. Malaysia is top on that list. Yeah, the tuition is quite affordable compared with going to any of the big five. So if cost is your issue, and you are looking for a place where you can get very good quality education, but at an affordable cost, then that would be a factor to also consider. For example, if you want to come to a place like Malaysia, and then some institutions also offer very good, a lot of opportunities to access funding. So you are a student, then you can access a lot of funding. If that's your goal, that could also be something very good to consider. And then, so actually, some countries are best for certain courses. And so,
Mm.
yeah, so depending on what course you intend to study, you may also want to consider those kind of countries. I'll give an example. The Caribbeans are known for very good quality, affordable medical studies. So if
Mm.
that's your plan, then that may be something for you to consider. Thailand has a lot of programs where you can actually get free accommodation as an international student. You get free accommodation, and then when you graduate, you can come to Malaysia for, I think I think you can come for a free master's, tuition free master's degree or something like that. So those kind of opportunities are there. So depending on what your goals are, I would say the best country to study is the best country for you, the best country for your plans, the best country for your programs and your goals after graduation.
Okay. And I yeah, and all this situation can be very different for everyone, right?
Exactly. Very
Just
different.
certain countries would be probably very good at certain things. For example, you mentioned the Caribbeans are really good with affordable
Medical studies.
medical studies,
Yeah.
right? And if for example I'm an engineer, and I just graduated from high school, and I really want to get into engineering, and if for example funding is not an issue for me, and then I can, and my parents are some really rich tycoon in Malaysia and can afford an infinite amount of money, yeah, what would be possibly my best option available to me?
And, even when we take out the funding part, there are still a few other important parts like
Mm.
language.
Oh yeah, I didn't.
Language is another issue. For example, I would say anything technical like engineering, places where you can actually get the best, I would say it includes Japan, China, Germany. So now you encounter language issue in all of these places. So you're
Oh.
going to face the issue of having to learn the local language because, especially if you are going for a bachelor's program, the bachelor's programs are usually in the local language in these countries. So although they do have a few English based programs, but not very often. So you have to consider more than the funding. So the language is also there. So if language now becomes a problem, it means that you may be forced to take on study in an English speaking country. And in that case, I would say go for US, go for Canada.
Okay. So it does sound to me like not only that I've considered funding as a potential limiting factor, that language also plays a role as
Yes.
well. So
Language is a-
if any countries that uh, if I can speak a language that covers more countries, then I have essentially more option then.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for example, if I can't speak German, for example, and then a lot of German European countries will be completely out of my option unless I actually invest time and effort into learning those languages.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it would be to our advantage then to be actually multilingual, because more
Exactly.
to be able
Exactly.
to speak and read multiple languages actually opens up a lot more
It does.
options for
It
you.
does. Even beyond studying, it opens up a lot of opportunities, finding a job as a student and finding a job after your studies. It's just
Mm,
natural that people warm up to you when you are able to speak their language. It's just
mm.
natural. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it carries into into work as well. For example, I think Malaysian has a bit of advantage here because most of us are multilingual,
Yeah.
and we can speak English, we can speak, for example, myself speaks Mandarin as well.
Yeah.
And so we work well with Chinese customers and clients as well.
Yeah.
And I have the option if I ever want to go study in China,
You
you
can
know,
speak the language, yeah. So
because I speak a language. Yeah. But unfortunately, European countries would be a bit out of my league then because I
except
don't
you're
speak
ready to
German.
learn the language.
Yeah, yeah. And I heard this interesting thing about studying in Germany, right? Because I do have a colleague who actually completed his study in Germany, and he did not know a single word of German before he started his undergraduate. But he
Okay.
told me that the reason why people actually want to get into Germany to study was mostly because tuition is free.
Yes.
Is that true?
If you study in German language, tuition is free.
Wow. And so this would make if this particular trade would have made German a lot more attractive to certain people as well, because it's tuition free, but you have to put in the effort into
Exactly. And not
into learning
everyone is
German.
good. Not everyone is good with language learning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man, I tried to learn a few German because I work for a German speaking company, but it's still very challenging. It's still very challenging. Yeah.
The
And
cost of
so
living is
yeah,
also high too. So that's another factor to consider. Yeah.
say that again, sorry.
The cost of living is quite high also.
Mm,
Yeah.
in Germany.
In Germany, in Norway. Norway also is tuition free. If you study in the public institution, it's also tuition free. But then you have to deal with high cost of living, and then it is crazy cold. So
Oh yeah.
those are also factors that weather is another major factor that you need to consider in choosing. That's one
So,
of the reasons why Malaysia is like, hot cake, because what you need here is air conditioning.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're 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 literally very hot, and we're a bit of a hot cake. Yeah,
Yeah.
that exactly that describes Malaysia. I think Malaysia can afford you a lot of advantage in terms of affordable education, but at the same time, the restriction is something that you think about.
Exactly.
If earning trying to earn a living while you're studying, or trying to earn with a side job to cover some of your tuition, so countries like Malaysia would be a bit of a tougher choice, because you have to enter into the country with all these funds prepared, and actually have to make sure that the funding keeps coming.
Yeah.
But you have the advantage of maybe 4 to 5 times cheaper than anywhere else in the world to study an equivalent education.
Well, I think one more thing while we're still on that I should mention is it might be quite hard for students that are maybe going into a bachelor's program in Malaysia. But if you are going into a research program and you know your research well, you could have an advantage in the sense that uh, professors will usually have grants. And when we get grants, we employ students that we pay. We pay them a salary to work on the grants. So if you are a research student, even in Malaysia, you can be on a salary for the entire period of your study that will take
Mm.
care of both your tuition and your living expenses. So that's another advantage that people could consider. So if your goal is not a bachelor's program, if you are going in for maybe a master's program or a PhD program, then you can have an advantage of working while you are studying.
Yeah, that's good information. So if you're interested in getting your master's or your PhD, do consider Malaysia, right? Come
Yeah.
and do your research here, and you may be able to. There's a high chance that you can get a grant to give you a bit of salary and cover your tuition and living expenses here.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. So like, there's so many factors that I've never thought of that could decide a lot of the countries or places that I would be studying in. I am a bit biased on the next question, right? Because I really do hard sell engineering since the
And I
past
think I'm also biased on the answer even before you ask the question.
Yeah, so is engineering the best course to study?
No, it is not.
Yeah, what are the best courses to study? I think these are the questions for some of the audience here today.
Okay, yeah. So on that, I think that's actually a matter of preference, a matter of your background, and a matter of your passion.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of background, let's say, for example, you're going for a master's degree and you had a bachelor's in early childhood education. You can't possibly go and do a master's in mechanical engineering. so, so
That's
where
true.
you're coming from is going to have a very big, huge impact on where you go. So, but then in this time where a lot of there's a lot of interdisciplinary stuff going around, so you could actually do some crisscrossing in terms of what courses, but then you still need a background. So depending on where you're coming from and what your career goals are, I think that's what determines which will be the best course for you to study. Other factors is where your strength lies. I remember last time we were discussing about engineering, or everyone in engineering loved mathematics.
Yeah,
So
that's true. Yeah.
if you loved engineering but you hate mathematics, then that's not the way for you then. So that's I think that's another thing that has to be considered. The areas of your strength is very important. Then another issue is what's your plan after graduation? If, for example, you plan to work in that country, then your best course will be a course that has a future in that country. So most of the countries, let me say, most of the big countries of the world with very good systems, every year they have what we call the in-demand skills. So they will publish the in-demand skills for each year, which is based on the areas of the career areas in their countries where they need more people. So
Mhm.
that means job opportunities will be available in those areas. So if you're going to stay in that country, your best option will be to make sure that you are studying a course within those list of skills that will be in requirement. So that by the time you graduate, you have an opportunity to, plug in to that
Mhm.
and then get employed. Because if you don't get an employment, then you're on your way back home. So that's another factor. And then, but if your plan is to go back home immediately after you study, then your best course will be a course that gives you an advantage when you go back home. So if, for example, you've been an engineer,
Mm.
then you want to go out to go and study instead of you had a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, then you want to go abroad to study. Instead of going for maybe a master's in mechanical engineering, you may want to consider a master's in business administration. So you put yourself in a position to become a manager. So these are things that you may want to consider. So there are no rules about which courses are the best. It will still be dependent on a lot of factors. So one of the things that Arrows does is speak with the candidate before they even step into any of these things. So we try to find out what are your goals, what are your interests, what career path are you interested in. Then based on that, we'll be able to advise you. But one more important thing is the changes that are going on in the world today. Everywhere now, technology is changing the way practically everything is done. So
Yep.
whatever you plan to do, you should factor that into it.
Mhm.
I saw some very interesting courses. So because I think last week we had some guests from a university in Thailand at my institution, and they presented to us some of the courses that they offer. And I saw uh, technology in medical services. That was a course that they were offering. So you are not studying to become a nurse or a doctor or anything, just studying how to apply technology in the hospital, in different parts of the hospital system. That is very forward looking for me. So these are all things that you people should consider when thinking about choosing a particular course. So it's a function of many things that goes on.
So you're saying some institution can actually be creative in their offering in
Oh
such a way
yes,
that
oh
they
yes.
focus really practical, because like technology in medical services, it's not something that everybody
Not
thinks
at all.
about,
I've
right?
not even come across it before. It was
Yeah.
like my first time was seeing the course.
Yeah, when everybody
Bachelor
thinks
program.
about medicine, they would think about nursing, they would think
Exactly.
about
Exactly.
dentistry, medical doctors, but not applying technologies,
Yeah.
in hospitals and all that. So it would be really interesting to discover those things and realize, hey, even though I can't qualify to study a medical degree, but I think I can still pursue things that would still work in the medical industry
Yeah.
in these examples, right? I think that would be helpful to know. I don't think this would be information that I might be able to discover if I'm doing all the research by
Not
myself.
likely. Not
Not
likely.
likely. Yeah. So that's good to know that these are things that Arrows can help. And I presume that there would be that if I'm coming to Arrows Education, I actually can speak to a consultant that help
Sure.
walk us through this. How does that work?
Okay, so what will usually happen is, like you mentioned at the beginning, you are interested in studying. Maybe you have not made a decision on anything. You just have a come with a clean slate, and then you just go online on Arrow's website. You complete the form. In the form, you will be asked to indicate which countries you are interested in, and that is made to be at least you have the opportunity of mentioning three different countries. So you put the three different countries there, and then you can, of course, you may eventually not go to any of these three countries after discussing with you. This is just for you to be able to complete the form. Then you put in your transcripts, your certificates, and everything, your CV. And then after that, you get to speak with a consultant. And then they are going to ask you, what exactly are your plans? What are your interests? What exactly do you want to do? And then in the process, sometimes some of them that have put in maybe engineering or something may discover that it's really not what they wanted to do. Maybe it's what daddy or mommy wanted them to do, or it's some pressure from friends, or there is the desire to want to feel important. Or as an engineer, it's going to. So sometimes people get to understand that life is more than trying to look the part. So, so you need to actually go for what works for you, where your strengths lie. So, in the process of talking and discussing, we find out that, oh, this is what you're actually interested in. Do you want to consider this? Many times we have had cases like, oh, I didn't even know that there is a course like that. I didn't even know that that's a possibility. So I think that that's one thing that works well, especially
Mhm.
with young people who are just going in for their bachelor's program.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly a concern that many parents and sometimes even the
Yeah.
students themselves have. I just spoke to somebody who has a son who is about to enter into university, right?
Okay.
And she shared with me like this particular son was so different from her other son because he knows exactly what he wants to do. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows exactly what he needs to do, and so he was minds was already set on chemical engineering, and it was already making plans towards that engineering. But I don't remember that being my situation, right? I was very not really clear about what I needed to do. And I think a lot of us are in those situations, and this includes her other son who is completely clueless about what they need to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
so and also particularly funny because this is the this son who cannot make up his mind was more of a, he is really good at everything, almost everything. He's
Okay.
an A
Yeah.
student in all areas.
That can be challenging. Yeah.
That can even be more challenging. Like I'm kind of good at everything.
Yeah.
So what should I choose? That makes it a bit more complicated sometimes.
Yes.
So
It does.
yeah. So if you're in this situation and find yourself like a bit clueless and you need a little bit of advice, or somebody gives you, points you to the general right direction, come speak to Arrows Education, and we will have somebody to walk you through and consult you on your future plans and realizing your dreams of studying abroad.
Yeah. And one more thing about being clueless, I would say it's okay to be clueless, really. Even the universities know that you may be clueless. As a teenager, you have so much going on that you may not really be able to make up your mind on exactly what you want to do. But there are a few universities that have actually tried to fill that gap by creating some courses that are not, I would say, nameless courses,
Hmm.
where you can go in and spend 1 year figuring things out. So it's like a foundation program, a general foundation program. Whatever credits you gather from the program is going to be applicable in your bachelor's program, but you spend that 1 year exploring different things to see what catches your fancy. Then after 1 year, you can make up your mind, okay, I think right now I want to go in this direction. So 1 year of being on campus as an undergraduate, not tied to any course, just exploring here and there. Yeah, some universities are doing that now, and I think it's a very good thing.
Yeah, it's good to know that universities are helping students to navigate through that by offering foundational studies that help you explore different field, and it would be something that you can talk to Arrows Education as well if that's something that would help you in your decision making. As much as I love to study in the best university, right? Like you say, one of my number one limiting factor, money.
Yep.
um, I am always looking for a scholarship if I want to study in a university. How can I get access to scholarships, in that area, and fundings, for example? What are some of my options?
Okay, so that happens to be one of the top questions that international students always want to ask. I need
Mm,
scholarship. Let me start by saying everything is online these days.
mm,
Practically everything is online. So the first thing is go online and search scholarships for bachelors in engineering, scholarships for business studies, scholarship for anything. You can just put it in there, and then you will get a lot of it returned, and then you can check which ones you're qualified for, and you can make applications. That is one. Secondly, there are many scholarships that come with your intake. They are just what do we call them? Entry scholarships. We call them entry scholarships. So these scholarships, you don't need to apply for them. The fact that you are getting an offer from the university means you are already qualified for the entry scholarship. And sometimes it can be huge, 30%, 50%, or even more. So that's another way of getting funding. Another way is after you are in, a lot of scholarships are actually for students who are already registered. They are called merit scholarships. So these merit scholarships only require you to maintain a certain CGPA, and you can continue to use them until you graduate. But you have to be a registered student first, which means the initial cost must be taken care of by you or your parents or any other sponsor. Apart from
mm,
that, there are many organizations that offer scholarships as part of their community service. So those kind of organizations, you may try to identify them in your country or in your state or in your local government or village. So those are also areas where one can get a scholarship. Others are, like I mentioned earlier, everything is online. There are actually some scholarship websites. You can
mm,
go there, you can set up alerts for certain types of scholarships. So anytime those scholarships are available, you will get an email that tells you, hey, this type of scholarship has been posted. Sometimes you might see a scholarship that you are qualified for, but maybe by the time you saw the scholarship, the application is already closed.
Mm.
It's going to reopen again in another year. So you can actually put an alert on it so that immediately it's opened again, you get a notification that it has opened. So then you can go in. Then there are also social media groups. There are maybe TikTok groups, WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups that are focused on scholarships. You can join any one of them, and then you get updates, sometimes daily updates, weekly updates, monthly updates. It's there. And finally, I would say get good grades. I think
Mm.
that's the topmost factor when it comes to scholarships, because you can't be below average student and then you expect scholarships.
Mm.
Scholarships are mostly meant for uh, top students, especially if they are academic based scholarships. But in
Mm.
addition to all of this, there are also other scholarships that are based on skills.
Mm.
Yeah, we have sports scholarships for sportsmen. You could actually work your way through university playing football, playing basketball, swimming, running, playing badminton, or playing tennis for your university. So
Mm.
those are also opportunities people can actually explore. I think you can also be a musician. If you're a musician, you could also get a scholarship for musicians that can take you through university or two. There are scholarships for people with drawing skills, painting skills. There are so many different types of skills. So you just need going back to what I said earlier, go online, scholarships for sportsmen in the US, scholarships for swimmers in the UK. Those kind of searches will actually get you where you want to go. And but let me say, one of the most important things to also consider is your CV. Your
Mhm.
CV has a lot to do with whether you are getting anything or you're not getting. One of the top skills that scholarship givers want to see is leadership skills. If you cannot demonstrate through your CV that you have leadership skills, then you may not be selected. And how do you demonstrate that? Volunteer, lead your class, lead a group, create a community and lead. Just show that you are someone dependable, someone that can be trusted to lead. So when you are able to demonstrate this through your CV, sometimes through interviews, then you may be on your way to getting a scholarship. And then community service is also, they are all things that you can put on your CV. Even the service you do in church is considered community service. Not everybody that comes to church serve in church. So if you are serving in church, it's also community service, and you can put it on your CV that this is what you do for the community there. So that's also something that young people need to consider. So laziness will not work, and
Yeah.
yeah, it takes a lot of work to actually fish out good scholarships, apply for them, because sometimes the application alone is it's more than the work you need to do for the degree that you want to go to study. They
Yeah.
spend a lot, write this, you write an essay, you write this and that, write exam, fill forms, some 25-page form. So these are all uh, people have to be, they make up their mind and be ready to do the work.
Yeah. I think that the system, the world rewards those who are
Oh, yes.
proactive
Yes.
and takes initiative to take control of your life, right?
Yeah.
From and the better that you can hold off your what they call that instant gratification.
Gratification. Yeah.
Yeah, the more you are, the better you are
Yeah.
rewarded in the future. And
Exactly.
so, for those who are not approaching your graduation, entering into higher education, I think it's good time that you start considering, um, yeah,
Yeah.
building up your CV. Getting yourselves involved in different activities that demonstrates your leadership skills and your soft skills, and yeah, build a really amazing and impressionable CV. I think that that has been really helpful in my life as well. Yeah, and I can testify to that if you do well earlier on, then your reward will be greater in the future.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's on scholarship, and looks like it's for people who are maybe like putting in a lot of work, or really do excel in certain areas, right? But
Yeah.
I'm not so. I admit I'm not like the cream of the crop. I barely get by. I am maybe really good at certain things, but I'm still not the top tier. And scholarship, it's a bit more challenging for me to get. I tried all my options, but I still want to keep myself a bit more, like more options on my hand, and maybe working part time as I'm studying. It's an option that I can consider as well. So how can I access like those opportunity, if I'm studying abroad, right? How can I spend some of those time working and making a little bit of pocket money while I'm there?
Okay. I think your audio is breaking a bit.
Testing. Sorry, is that better?
Yeah, it's okay now. It's okay now.
Okay. Yeah. So I was asking, like I'm not doing too well. Good at something, but not really good at it, and I want to keep my options open. And
Okay.
while I'm studying, I want to make some pocket money and perhaps cover some of my tuition fee. So what are my options? Like, how can I access that? How can I get
Okay.
into that?
Okay. So I'll say two things. So I'm going to take two things together: work and study opportunities and student loans. I'm going to take those two together.
Mm-hmm.
So studying, getting work and study opportunity, there are two ways to it. You study in a country where it is offered. If you go to a country where it's not offered, of course, you don't have that option. So if you study in a country where it is offered, you are allowed, I think in most countries of the world where such opportunities are, you are allowed to work 20 hours per week during sessions. Then you can work 40 hours during breaks. And I
Mm-hmm.
will here say, please, international students, people will tell you, don't worry, you can do it, you can work more. Yes, you may be able to work more, you may be able to get away with it, but someday Nemesis may catch up with you. So when the nation says you can work 20 hours, please work 20 hours and stop it at 20 hours. You work more than 20 hours, you may not be able to tell when it will catch up with you. Recently, for those that have been following what is happening in the US, you'll be hearing stories of, oh, students in this university, their visas were, withdrawn and all that, and everybody is shouting, oh, what is wrong with Trump and all that. Okay, the truth of the matter is, not practically all of the people that were affected had certain issues or the other at one time that nobody said anything about. Things that they actually got away with. They may be simple things like working more than 20 hours. Though nobody said anything because nobody knew that there was going to be a Trump. So now suddenly people are paying for things that, I mean, offenses that they have forgotten that they committed. So please stick with anything that relates to immigration rules. Don't jump it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one thing. Secondly, you can, a lot of people will want to ask the question of, if I work as a student, can I support myself? Can I pay my tuition? Yes, you can pay your tuition if your tuition is not too high. You can pay your tuition if you really work hard. You can pay your tuition if you are able to get all the 20 hours in. It is not all the time that you are able to get the 20 hours in. You might not be able to fill it in. You might not find enough jobs to cover the 20 hours. So these are all factors that has to be considered. But there are also many other ways to access financial support within the university. And that also includes working for the university. Another thing that takes us back to doing well academically. When you do well academically, you can also work as a tutor for your classmates, and the university pays you. Yes. So you are asked to, you tutor your classmates, you can tutor younger students, maybe you are in, but because you must have taken a particular course to be a tutor in that course, for example. So let's say you took this chemistry 101 when you were at that stage. Then next year or next semester, when some other students are taking that course and they have problems, you can be their tutor and the university pays you for the hours that you spend doing tutoring. So that's another area where you can get. You can also serve as I think, supporting hands at the International Student Center. You can serve in the hostel as a residential assistant. These are all areas where you can serve and you get paid. So, but then the fact also there is there that you have to be able to plan well, because if you don't plan well, then you don't have the time. I mean, the time you have to be able to allocate time for your study that does not clash with time for your work. When you get to work, naturally you come back tired, but you can't afford to rest because you still have classes to attend. So you have to be able to maintain a balance between all of these things, so which will be very important. So 40 hours during holidays and during short breaks is allowed, whereas during session you can only work 20 hours in most cases. I think recently there was a change in I think Australia, where you can work about 25 hours or 30 hours on alternate weeks or something like that. So you check, then you go for where that opportunity is. Where people cannot afford any of these, then you may want to consider loans. So there are international student loans, no guarantor, no collateral, no co-signer, just be qualified based on the course you are studying. Most STEM courses are qualified, and business courses are also qualified. So you are studying a business course, studying a STEM course or a design course, you are qualified to apply. So there are 2 countries now presently that is covered by ARUS that offers loans to international students, Canada and the US. In Canada, you can only get loan to cover your tuition. You have to provide living expenses by yourself. In the US, you can get loans to cover both your tuition and your living expenses. So depending on the total, but you are not qualified to take more than $100,000 in your lifetime on loans. So you have to, let's say, for example, you are doing, and then these loans only cover 2 years. So as an undergraduate student, you cannot apply for loan for the initial part of your study. You can only use loan 2 years into your study. So for maybe your last 2 years. And then for master student, yes, they can use that. So when you apply, let's say your tuition is 10,000 and your living expenses is 10,000. That means for 1 year, you need 20,000. So for 2 years, you need 40,000. So you can apply for 40,000. And during your study, you'll be expected to be paying the interest part, just a small amount of the interest. Immediately after graduation, you'll be given 6 months moratorium. Then you can start paying back the principal. It is believed that within 6 months, you should be able to get a job, settle down, and then be able to start paying back your loan. So these are also other areas that you can explore for support, especially for those who might not be too good to get a scholarship, but they are also good students, because even the loans will not be given to students that are not good. The loan provider also want to see that you're going to be able to finish the course and graduate well.
Yeah.
That you will graduate with a pass or graduate with a third class and then you cannot find a job. So those are also something to consider. Everyone has to be good. One more thing is that credit history is usually considered in granting these loans. So keep your credit history well. Don't owe your bank. Don't have a redundant bank account. Don't, all of those things. Just keep everything tidy so that in case they check you out there, then you'll be okay.
Yeah. That's so true. Success doesn't usually come to people who sits there and do nothing, right?
at all.
So you probably have to work hard for this. And whatever the option is, you have to put in the work. You have to be ready
Yeah.
um, to sacrifice a little bit of discomfort in
Yes.
order to get your dream. I think those are dreams that are worth
Yeah.
sacrificing for, and I think it's worth working hard for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and uh, and also I think something that I probably want to put in is that I had the privilege to be able to just focus on my study, right?
Mm.
But it's not always the same for a lot of my other peers as well, whom have to work a side job in order to cover their living expenses and their tuition, and it's not easy. And so, if you think about wanting to work and study at the same time, you have to really count your costs, right?
Yeah.
Whether managing both study and work at the same time is something that you can really take up, because yeah, it's not easy. The working world is not as easy as it would be studying, and now you have to juggle between both worlds, and then your brain is at maximum capacity trying to cram everything that you've learned in the classroom, in the lecture hall.
Yeah.
It might not be for everyone, and if you choose that path, be ready to
Yeah.
deal with those the difficult part of working and studying at the same time. Yeah. So if you do have the privilege and opportunity, please focus on your study for 4 years, and you can work all you want after that, right? So
Sometimes it's not your choice. There's
yeah,
nobody to pick up the bill, so you have to pick
um,
them up by yourself.
yeah. But if that's a privilege you have,
Yeah.
go for them. Yes, so it was really like so much more questions that we have, but we only have so little time. But we can always come back and revisit this
Sure,
in
definitely.
a future session. But I'm so um, such an opportunity and honor to be able to discuss this with you and answer some of the questions that our audience may have.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much, dear.
Yeah, thank you so much. And before we end, we'd like to again remind you that a lot of these things that we discuss here, you can find them within the services of Arrows Education. And we are, if we would put up the slides, um, visit us on our social media, on our website, Arrows Education, uh, Instagram, Facebook, our YouTube. We are also on TikTok as well. Or contact us on WhatsApp, right? Reach out to us and go to our website to fill up your form, and we will have somebody to come and work with you and walk you through the entire process. From the moment that you decide that you want this dream realized, we will do our best to help you navigate through those difficult waters and confusion sometimes.
Yeah.
So much option, and getting all these documents ready, your fundings and etc., so that we can help you realize your dream of studying abroad. So visit us on our social medias, and get started on your dreams today. With that, I would like to thank you, Dr. Bossetti,
Thank you
for
very
the
much.
really good session, and thank you for answering the question. And that's all for tonight, and we
Okay.
appreciate you joining us online today, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.